listening to Owning the Buy Box, an IP Secure podcast. This is the podcast for agencies, brands, and aggregators who want to master Amazon, push out unauthorized competition, and take their business to the next level. You're about to hear a conversation that'll help you maximize your growth on Amazon by owning the Buy Box. Let's get into the show.
Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Owning the Buy Box. I'm Dave Cooper, I'm your host. I'm also the founder and CEO of IP Secure. And today we've got someone on the show who I think probably has a fairly interesting perspective on brand protection and the e-commerce space in particular. And we're very excited to have Brennan Ursu here. Brennan is the Director of Marketing Strategy for Zoomget. And Zoomget may be the most successful online e-commerce operator that maybe you've not heard of, but you've probably used their products for sure. I think I know most people have. And Brennan, thanks for being here. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, definitely. Thanks for having me, Dave. Appreciate it.
You know, I think your product to me is sort of fascinating and your business is fascinating. And I'd love you to tell us a little bit more about the company and the importance of Amazon and the e-commerce ecosystem to your business. But surprisingly, in anticipation of the show, I kind of looked up a few things and the disposable glove market in 2022 is over $12 billion. Like, that's pretty big. I mean, it makes sense, I guess, right? There's so many applications for the product. So really interesting space. How did you sort of get into it?
Sure. Yeah. So my background, I actually got a mathematics degree and have a bit of a background in the investment space, in venture capital, private equity. I ended up pivoting into e-commerce and worked on a number of various early stage companies, launched a number of products. In the last roughly 4 or 5 years, I've ended up launching about 20 various products across multiple different subcategories, scaled many businesses and many various listings on e-commerce, Amazon, for Amazon, Walmart, eBay, Shopify, et cetera, to well over 8 figures. And then ended up pivoting over into the disposable glove industry with Zoomget. Found myself, leading their marketing and strategy departments, reporting to the CEO, and it's been a great time. Definitely a large market, right? It's those unsexy industries that people don't necessarily think about that you can make some pretty remarkable moves in. Definitely.
Well, yeah, that was one of the things that sort of attracted me, right, to hearing your perspective on a lot of the stuff that we talk about on the show. And it's really interesting because I think when you talk about brand protection in the context of like Amazon and marketplaces and stuff, at least with folks who don't live in the world that I do, like they immediately, they think about like handbags and shoes and, brands that whether luxury or not, but those types of sort of consumer products. But actually, the brands that we work with that are the most impacted by this are in spaces like yours, highly competitive markets where, you really are fighting hard, right, to find growth in different places. And it's a very mature, large market and has its own set of complexities like associated with that. I know you weren't there. How long have you been? Well, let me ask you, how long have you been with Zoomget now?
I'm in my first year with Zoomget. So I've been here with Zoomget for just over 9 months.
I was only curious just how COVID impacted the business. Like, did Zoomget just like start selling a gazillion more gloves overnight or what?
You know what? Like I said, my background is math and very tech oriented. I love looking at data. So I've definitely been analyzing historical data, what happened in 2019, 2020, 2021 even, to the market. versus current market dynamics. And interestingly enough, yes, it did spike overnight. And it left a lot of opportunity, both for very malicious sellers to do a lot of damage, but also for, if you know what you're doing, you could grab market share like nobody's business. Right. You know, it was really a test of, if you know how to scale a product and if you know how to scale a business, then you're going to have been very successful. And now on the kind of the tail end of that, it's more so, okay, the markets grew. It still actually is quite a lot larger than it was historically. How do you continue that growth? Number one. Number two, how do you continue that growth while also protecting yourself, especially from some of these malicious sellers? You know, we sell in Staples, Home Depot, et cetera, all these other brick and mortar locations where it's like, you know, when you're selling to various resellers or middlemen, people can get their hands on your product that you don't necessarily want to, right? And that leaves you very much so exposed, especially within the marketing realm, to, okay, how do I scale my business in an efficient and effective manner, both brick and mortar and direct to consumer and on these various online marketplaces, while also not kind of stabbing myself in the back at the same time by selling to anyone and everyone.
Yeah. I mean, COVID accentuated and sort of shined a spotlight, right, on everything. Like you said, if you had and I think this is a big part of e-commerce success, is like the building blocks and having a good foundational operation in place so that you can capitalize when there are like massive surges in demand for whatever reason, pandemics or otherwise. I mean, for good reasons or bad, but when there's a surge in demand, like, I think your point is, if you're not on top of it and you haven't invested the time, right, to put all those building blocks in place, including, you know, policing your channel and controlling, you know, who's selling and marketing your product, then you won't capitalize on those spikes in that demand. So yeah, I completely agree with you. And unfortunately, we don't know, you know, no one knows when that next major event's going to occur, right? That may drive a change in consumer behavior or something like that. I had never bought disposable gloves until COVID, right? As just a typical guy, right, on the street who, you know, I don't work in an industry or a business where I require them. And I never bought them. I bought them after COVID started. And now we use them for all sorts of things. So, you know, there's definitely been a big change in behavior. And you also mentioned, you know, you sell through obviously major retailers. I know you're definitely a marketplace expert, have a lot of experience on the big ones, the Amazons, the Walmarts, etc. So if Zoomget is selling through all these different motions concurrently, does that make it more challenging for you guys to police the channel and you know, try to stay on top of some of those issues?
Well, growth is always going to present a lot of challenges, right? And definitely selling through multiple different channels makes it more complex. You have to have extreme supply chain visibility. If I don't know who's buying my product and I can't track a product that I'm selling to, you know, one of our brick and mortar buyers, how am I going to figure out who's hijacking our buy box on Amazon if I can't figure out, you know, how they got that product in the first place? I can't cut off that line, right? If I can't do that, then there you go. My buy box tanks from 100% down to 20% because you just can't control your supply chain. What's the after effect? Your revenue's tanking. Your marketing spend is now super inefficient. Tacos are way through the roof because your conversion rate's awful. And now, even though technically, sure, you're selling products, even for, let's say you have like one of our brand name companies, right? Super well known, one of the best, you know, disposable gloves in the category, price wise, product wise, everything, like our GloveWorks brand, for example. If we don't own that buy box, the ranking is going to tank, even if sales are still happening. Amazon doesn't like it when the brand doesn't own that buy box. So the effects of losing your buy box for extended periods of time will actually be felt for beyond just that one singular period. You're going to feel the after effects of that in your organic rank and your ad performance, your cost per click, et cetera, for many months to come afterwards, not including just that current period.
I think every CEO needs someone like you in the room, because I think, unfortunately, as brands grow and become more successful, if they are sales-driven businesses, then you're sort of fighting against this temptation to grow and then grow more and then take POs and sell product. And I think we hear that story a lot, and then inevitably somebody really smart does show up and tries to help the business create a positive growth engine on Amazon, and they're suffering, right, for the decisions that took place for years prior, sometimes decades prior. And it's really hard, I think, to fix the problem later versus starting in the beginning if you can. So I think Zoomget is great, is in a great position because they're thinking about the problem sort of holistically, right? Like you said, how does it impact all those other elements of the business? It's not just about losing a sale. It's about the ripple effects that this will have on all these other parts of our operation. I don't think enough people appreciate that. Definitely. Who don't live in the e-commerce world. So I think
definitely. Oh no, definitely. I was just gonna say definitely. It's 100% true. Running a marketing and strategy department, my number one thing is growth. I want to grow more than anyone on the team, right? It makes me look good. It makes the company look good. But at the end of the day, if I'm going to grow our company and then negate some of that maybe midterm effects, well, hey, that's not going to look very good mid or long term as well, right? You have to have that balance and make very sometimes hard decisions in determining where you want to invest those ad dollars, right? Because if I invest immensely in a mid and upper funnel marketing campaign, really explode the brand name and brand presence of one of our products or one of our brands, and then, great, in 6 months I don't even own the buy box. Great. What was the worth? The impact of that investment it's gonna be pretty awful.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. I mean, it's sort of like you're investing a lot in all of the steps that lead up to that consumer purchase when they click buy, and if you're not there to take advantage of that, then how great was the work that led up to it? It devalues everything across the board, pretty much. So yeah, I think we definitely agree on that.
Who is in your buy box? That's the key question, and the difference between sales growth and brand abuse and revenue loss. Monitoring your buy box is the key to brand protection success on Amazon. At IP Secure, our analytics will drive your behavior. It's not about taking down more sellers, removing more unauthorized listings. It's about knowing who's taking your revenue minute by minute, and then adjusting your response appropriately, taking action when necessary, and recapturing that revenue. Visit us today, ipsecure.com, to learn how.
I know one of the things that you're pretty passionate about is taking a sort of omnichannel approach, right, to your e-commerce operation. Does that mean extending also things like brand protection, into more of an omnichannel approach to it? What are your thoughts on that?
Definitely. Yeah, no, I'm a huge supporter of omnichannel. Everything when it comes all the way down to the team, right? Everyone and every single level of the business, they need to have that omni-channel vision. If I'm going to have, we sell a lot, as you can imagine, to business buyers, right? I have to be on the platforms that my business buyers want to buy from. I can't just hope they all go to Amazon or our Shopify site or something. You're going to see a lot more business buyers on eBay or on some like RFP sites or something along those lines. You have to be everywhere, always, wherever your buyer is. You want to be available so that you're the first, you're the go-to. That honestly, even just in general, can be great mid and upper funnel marketing because they see you everywhere. You keep appearing. Yeah. That's a great benefit. But when it comes to brand protection, that's definitely still relevant, right? If you protect your brand exclusively on Amazon, great. Okay, that could kind of help. If you're not doing that on Walmart, on eBay, on Shopify, or in brick and mortar, what you're doing on Amazon is probably not even going to end up mattering, because you're not doing it on all these other channels. It's going to end up permeating and infiltrating your Amazon channel as well. For example, I mean, if you look at just statistically, hey, how do malicious buyers get your product if you sell omni-channel? It's almost never from Amazon. The only stuff you're protecting on Amazon are going to be product not actually companies not actually selling your product, right? It'll be fraudulent product, which you can get that shut down no matter what, right? That's a lot easier to get under control than people buying your product from another malicious buyer and then trying to hijack your buy box with authentic product.
You're drawing a distinction between
really hard and really difficult.
Like you're drawing a distinction between the consumer, like the end user, and then like the liquidator, right, or the distributor, or the whole wholesale player, if you will, who is sort of trolling those other places, right, looking for the most inexpensive product that has a high sell-through rate on Amazon, and then boom, now they're there next to you, right, on this prime piece of real estate. So it's sort of like Amazon is definitely the window to the market, but there's a lot happening over here. Is your point? That's fueling
definitely.
It. Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, it's one of the arguments that like brands make for spending a lot of time on platforms like Alibaba and stuff, and places in Asia, because and not because a lot of their customers shop there. That's not really why they're doing it. They're doing it because their customers shop on Amazon and on platforms like that. And so there is a connection, right, between these high volume wholesale players, primarily on foreign platforms, and the domestic platforms, and the bad guys that are playing there. Slightly different flavor, right? Yeah, that's interesting. That's super interesting.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. And it's also interesting because you mentioned Alibaba. Another thing that I've seen many times, Alibaba, you're always going to have so much so many awful things, bad actors, fraudulent products, people trying to sell your product on that platform, right? Same with a lot of other ones. You have to think about it though. Okay, well, if they're fraudulently selling your product or it's a fake product, how much time are you going to spend monitoring your product on Alibaba versus on Amazon? You have to make sure that you're balancing your ROI and just in terms of time, right?
No doubt. Yeah.
I mean, you're going to have way more sales on Amazon than you're going to have on Alibaba ever. So yeah, you should be really focusing on those markets. And then in addition to that, you look at something like Rakuten or Bull or anything like in Europe, right? On these or Amazon Europe, right? I mean, just a basic principle, for example, in the investment sphere and venture capital, you generally want your team to be geographically present in the marketplaces that you're expanding into if you actually want to make an impact in them, right? Otherwise, you're not going to understand it. If I'm selling to a lot of B2B customers in Europe and I don't understand the market dynamics, the supply chain, how people are getting product, it's going to be way harder to protect my brand on Amazon Europe if I have no presence in Europe.
Yeah. So the local knowledge is key because it helps you identify the use cases you need to know about, right? How it's happening on the ground, so to speak, in that market.
Yes.
So you can adjust, right, your own operation to sort of mitigate those risks, or conversely take advantage of opportunity, right? That locally you see as well. That I think is super, super important.
Definitely.
Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting. It's an interesting perspective. I think there's a lot of value in, for 20 years, I ran a business that did brand protection, and, the approach that we took was very much an omnichannel approach in the sense that we said, like, let's build technology that enables us to kind of cover everything everywhere. right? See as much as we can see, hundreds and hundreds of platforms. Let's monitor them all. The only challenge with that, and I think this is where I'm sort of agreeing with what you said before, like it's pretty unmanageable to do that. And it's very hard to learn from it because it's so noisy. And even with the best tech in the world, if you're harvesting data from 150 platforms, it will take real cost and resource and time to understand what that data says. Conversely, if you know 90% of your consumers shop on, a handful of the world's biggest platforms, maybe you should focus a lot more effort there. So I guess it's just like, to your point, know your customer and where they're shopping, right? And that's where you should be. That's where you should be.
Exactly.
You've been listening to Owning the Buy Box, a show from IP Secure. Never miss an episode by subscribing to the show in your favorite podcast player. Please give us a rating, leave a comment, and share episodes that you love. That helps us keep delivering you the tools you need to sharpen your competitive edge and ensure your authorized sellers always own the buy box. We'll see you next time.